Philosophers talk to our times. The anthropologists have their say. Anthropology is a strange subject. You see, unlike lots of subjects, it really has a founding moment in recent history. There was a first actual anthropologist, to which everything always goes back. Before Malinowski, there had been workers on mythology, people like Frazier, who tried to understand in The Golden Bough how legends evolve. Or folk like Durkheim, who would try to understand how ritual and religion feed in and create social facts that fashion a society. That bit wasn't new. No. What Malinowski invented was a methodology that demanded an anthropologist gave up 2-3 years of their lives living with the people that they understood. The famous participant observation. It wasn't good enough to try to just visit a people. You must learn their language and live with them. Because it is only in living with them that you could ever truly understand. Now, this methodology came from various sources. Gellner pointed out very, very wisely that it is the methodology of an Austro-Hungarian folklorist who would go into their communities to understand the people and speak Czech and write down their legends and their customs. And that was the world that Malinowski was born into, the old Austro-Hungarian Empire. It is also, of course, chance. Malinowski was stuck in the Western Pacific in the First World War. And what else does a thinking mind do but engage and adopt and adapt? But it created then a way of understanding the world that is actually unique, because it demands that you link ideas differently. A good anthropologist is not a conceptualist, in that they don't want to just assess everybody's ideas. I say a good anthropologist. I'm actually going to do the one who does do that tomorrow. That's Levi Strauss, but we'll come on to him tomorrow. Or doesn't just assess people's ideas, but rather they look at what they think and what they do and what they believe, and attempt to understand how the entire society hooks together, how they reflect and refract each other. Never identical. People don't act on what they believe. And they certainly don't say what they think, and they never remember what they've done. But those very remissions, that very exceptionalism, is what makes a society. So classically, Malinowski believed in something called functionalism, which probably nobody really accepts anymore, which was to try to understand every part of the society insofar as it helped the whole society survive. A kind of survivalism, but on the social level. By the mid-20th century, it was replaced by something called structural functionalism that put more emphasis on structure, and is probably what I will be talking about today. But it is an attempt then, not to understand society as something true or false, beliefs as true or false, or even that are acted on, but rather how they link one to the other. And that's what makes anthropology different. It makes it different from primitive and early sociology. Early sociologists such as Durkheim would want an affinity, let's put it that way, between the social facts that were created by mythology, the religions, if you like, and what people did. Durkheim argues, after all, it is religion that installs upon people the social facts of their society. A good anthropologist doesn't need to accept that. They would rather look at how the religion and the society reflect each other. It has a unique methodology, then, that is clearly vital to how we understand a world that is fracturing. One of the things that has started, for example, to really annoy me, I don't know if it's annoyed you, is that there is a dismissal of phenomena such as MAGA, or even fundamental Christianity and the belief that they're all going to be taken up to heaven as cults. We just say, oh, that's a cult, and leave it like that. As if saying it was a cult was enough to contain and dismiss. But a good anthropologist says, yes, and? Where does that cult come from? How does it operate? Why is it there? Oh, one accepts that it's probably not true. But that's not the point. One accepts that it will have a charismatic great leader, perhaps. But charismatic great leaders don't grow on trees. They don't come from heaven. Otherwise, cults would be right. Why are these people susceptible to such cults? And how? Or another example. Why is it that people will start to talk about the white tribe as if they were South Africans? Why are my friends doing so? How is their complicated existence, where the people who are doing this are often not the poorest, but the people who are just above, just made good, just feel okay, just content in what they've got, and so susceptible to myths of redemption? I'm thinking about fundamentalist Christianity that has torn through certain alternative communities here, that I know very well, and literally torn them apart, because some people believe in it and some people don't. And the people who believe in it are often those that are just okay and feel themselves, therefore, to be self-reliant and just redeemed. And then they're very open to anything, first of all, to a message of personal redemption through hard work that cuts them off from the rest of the community because they have redeemed themselves. But secondly, they're also open to a doctrine that sees them as somehow apart, different, and very vulnerable, because economically they are. And so they're open to the idea of a white tribe. Now, I'm talking out of my hat there. I haven't done any proper participant observation of these groups. I've merely talked to my friends and watched them change over the years, and always been an anthropologist. I suppose what I'm saying here is that one of the things that the society we now live in makes us all is outsiders. And that's strange. I mean, it's all right for me. I've always been a bit of an outsider. I think it's the hair that does it. And so it never bothered me being an anthropologist. It was a way I've always understood the world, because it is the way you have to understand the world if you always feel outside any group. But now we're all outside, so we have no choice. And for me, again, speaking personally, I spent most of my life as a maths tutor. So taking up the kids that everybody was abandoning, that's my speciality, and getting them through GCSE, getting them through A-level. I was in the redemption business, like my dad, taking the souls that nobody else would save and seeing if I could get them moving. And I couldn't have done that job without anthropology. I'm about to be jumped on by a dog, there it goes, without attempting to understand them. In case you wondered what's happened with the dog, a car has just gone past, and so she feels the need to attack me, but that doesn't matter. I can carry on talking. The point is about the job of a maths tutor is that to understand where a kid is coming from, to understand how they don't understand maths, it's not good enough to say, oh, you're stupid, or, oh, all I have to do is teach you this way. No. You have to understand why it is that they don't understand maths, what it is about the way they're learning, what it is very often about the way they feel about their teachers, their school, their parents even, that creates extra blocks, extra limits on understanding. If you can get the system right, then my experience, just speaking personally, was that 9 out of 10 kids were savable. Oh, yeah, there are kids that you can't help. And there are kids that you know you could have reached in a slightly different formula. But anthropology was critical to how I understood what I was doing as a teacher. That is, somebody who was outside the community, somebody who was parachuted in from the outside, but wanted to understand how it worked and to explain another world to it. I've spent all my life then as an anthropologist. And I suppose I think that it gives me a very good understanding of what is happening now. When I think you'll all have to do it in the end. Trading insults or laughing. Or even trying to persuade people of things that they're not going to budge on. That's not going to work. The only way you're going to cope in a world of cults is to understand what cults are. And to do that, you need to think through how they exist in a wider social framework. We're all anthropologists now, my friend. We're all anthropologists now. Malinowski would be so pleased.